Welcome back to Security Confidential. I'm your host, Rory Michael, filling in for Manoj Tandon this week. Today we have Dallas Baker joining us again. Dallas is a U.S. Army veteran and cybersecurity professional. He's worked for many companies, including Perimeter X, Blue Shield, PayPal, and Human, where he is currently a threat intelligence analyst. He is skilled in Python, SQL, information security, JavaScript, networking, and recently obtained a new certification in cyber threat management. Dallas, welcome back to the show. It is good to have you.
Nice to be here.
So what have you been up to since we last spoke with you? Anything new? What's changed in your life?
Yeah, so from the last time, as you know, Human merged with Perimeter X, or we were going through the merge, so things are kind of settling. So I'm out of the marketing team, and to take a step back, I was on the marketing team not to do necessarily marketing, but I was there to help customers with POV reports or additional analysis. And in addition, I would help the marketing team find actionable events to then create a blog post or video, or have the CEO go speak with NBC around cyber threats and things like that we see. So I was like kind of the analyst that supported a lot of different teams. So
Right.
now I'm kind of moved into threat intelligence. And so we're going to still keep a lot of the same responsibilities of helping marketing, or if the customer has additional insights that they need, we'll still provide that. But we're also doing more in-depth investigations, and
Okay.
some of those investigations will involve getting the Attorney General involved or the FBI or whatever to perform some type of takedown. So what I'm currently working on is getting a threat intelligence platform set up for the company, and getting the team. Since I worked at both companies, the only one in the company to work for both companies, is trying to merge the teams together and manage like which teams are closely aligned so that they can work better together, and which technology stacks we should use, the pros and cons to each, and things like that. So that's currently my projects at the moment.
Okay. And so what's the end goal now of the new merged company?
So the company was formerly called White Ops.
Okay.
And so during 2020, that it was there was a lot going on. And so the company felt that the name should change. And so they already had t-shirts that said Human, because our company essentially is determining if someone on the other end is a human or a bot. And so they changed the name to Human. Yeah. So, and Perimeter X had the same focus. Like they had the Human Challenge, and their goal was to tell you if there was a bot or if it was a human on the other side making the purchase or looking at the ad or whatever the case is. So we just it's a great merge because Perimeter X had a lot of more modern technology, and algorithms around the web application space, and Human started off as more of an ad security company. And and Perimeter X didn't have anything that was really solid in the ad space. And so we're just merging those two into a single product and service.
Yeah, that makes total sense then. No, it's funny in the sense that I think a lot of people think that cyber as a whole is very secure in its day and age, and kind of like the old Wild West days are over, but it's kind of the opposite. Everything is very, very much unsecure right now, and if people have the know-how and the drive to, there isn't much that you can really stop them from doing initially. Obviously, we've gotten a lot better now with tracing things down and tracking who's doing what from a criminal standpoint. But that initial thrust to get in somewhere or to exploit something is very easily done if you have the knowledge, the technology, and the tools to get it done. And I think that's a lot of people kind of don't understand that aspect of our security and of our cyber world right now.
Oh, most definitely. And I guess like one of the issues we face is depending on where the attack comes from, there might not be any jurisdiction that we can go to and say, hey, this is bad, because they don't have any laws around it. They're like, well, it's bad in your state or your country, but we don't care. I mean, so it's very new on what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. So a lot of people get away with it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and they can anonymize themselves very easily, especially if they're running through Tor and VPNs. It's hard to see who's actually performing the attack. You can also make your attack
Right.
look like you're someone else, someone different. Have like the fall
Mm-hmm.
guy, um, and and I still think that people, for some reason, people still clicking on phishing emails and clicking things and trusting the internet for whatever reason when it's really not a place to be trusted. Not to scare people, but it's
I
people
mean,
are out
you're
there
you're
to.
right on. I just read something this morning that was talking about how, CISOs and head security guys are the number one thing that they're most worried about is their employees clicking on phishing emails and spoofing emails. And to me, that's just such old news at this point. Like that's just something that's hammered away with everywhere you go. Any large organization, they do training, they send out fake emails all the time, but yet this is still a problem. It's still a major concern for a lot of organizations. So clearly, the fight is still out there, and it's we're not winning it yet, to say the
Oh,
least.
not at all. Email's a big thing. I'm not a huge fan of email. I try to get people to just use Slack or some other form where it's
Yep.
like we had to actually add that person to our enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
And so now if I do get an email, like I'll just do some due diligence to see if they're part of the company, who they are. Because we do have like other companies within our Slack. So it's, you don't,
Right.
just because it doesn't come from a human email doesn't mean that we're not working with them. And then I
Mm-hmm.
also set up some rules so that if particular people send emails, they just go to my Slack, and then I can
Okay.
just ping them from Slack. Yeah, because emails just I'm not a huge fan of it, and there's a lot of issues with it. And then
Right.
one of the things that we had at Blue Shield is we had the technology to really write really creative rules and
Mm-hmm.
heuristics to detect these emails. But then it
Right.
was like executives were like, no, I don't want to do that because if I miss an email, and it's like, if you miss one email, I mean, I guess it could be a big deal, and we don't have manpower for 10 analysts to sit there and just look at email all day. So
Yeah.
most of the things happen, we took more of a passive approach of allowing more emails in
Mm-hmm.
and then hoping that, CrowdStrike or FireEye or whatever will detect the malware payload or the phishing link or whatever, and then we would go block it. But by that happens, someone could already click the link, put their username, password in, and said okay, and went on about their day, and then realized, oh, I probably shouldn't have did that, and then they're embarrassed, so they don't say
They don't
anything.
report it. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, that
Um,
whole important email thing to executives, we've dealt with that in the past with Dark Rhino, and it can be quite the hurdle to get over. Trying to convince people how the security of protecting you against these phishing emails or bad emails, malicious emails, whatever they may be, really outweighs you maybe not seeing an email right away or missing one email from a client. I think at the time, the business development guys, they think that's really, a big deal. But at the end of the day, what's a bigger deal? You missed one email or you clicked on an email you shouldn't have clicked on, and now you have ransomware going on at your organization. I mean,
yeah. It'd be way easier to say, hey, I'm expecting this email and I didn't get it. Can you
yeah,
make sure? And we could have easily went in the system, said, yeah, oh yeah, we blocked the email, we'll release it or
yeah.
whatever.
So what human behaviors then, in your opinion, have led to the greatest number of breaches that you guys see or that you guys go in to investigate?
But when I was at Blue Shield, we used to do these experiments where we would dress up as like janitor workers or construction people. And we would just walk
Right.
through, and so many people would just open the door for us and say, "Oh yeah, go come on in." And we had our little name, we had a little Blue Shield logo, so we looked official. But
Right.
we should not. I mean, technically, we had access to these buildings because we're security.
Yep.
But they
Yep.
didn't know that. They didn't know who we were. We didn't have a badge. No one's asked, and they would just open the door for us and let us in. And, oh, where do I find this server room? Well, the server room's all the way down there to the left. They'd like literally walk us there and say, have a great day. And
Yeah.
then from there, we have access to the server room and we can pretty much do whatever we want. And so I
Hmm.
think trusting stuff, everyone wants to be nice and they don't want to like, someone could just be having a bad day. They left their badge at home, whatever. But at the end of the day, we all have
Right.
to take our initiative to say, like, we know, even if we know that person,
Hmm.
we still need to conform that we can't trust that person with
Yeah.
the systems and stuff like that. And there's processes in place for them to go get the temporary badge for the day.
Right.
When it comes to other issues, have been, when clients are when the company's working with different clients, you have employees. The client might want a bunch of data, which is fine. It's their data; they should have access to it. But instead of going the long way to make sure that it's shared in a secure way and it's encrypted and blah blah blah, they'll just bundle it all up and throw it in an email and click send, and or they'll host it on Dropbox or whatever. And it's like that's not the approved process, but it is easier. It's a lot easier,
Right.
and a lot of the systems that we have to secure things aren't as, I guess, efficient, so people don't use them or they don't know how to
Yeah.
use them, and so
Yeah.
it brings some issues up. And I know there's newer companies that's trying to automatically encrypt things and create like shareable links, like you would have with
Yep.
any other product. Um,
Hmm.
but I think those are the biggest ones: is just trusting too easily, and then not using approved processes for sharing information across the
Yeah.
wire.
Yeah. That makes sense. I think it goes to everybody wants to always be helpful. Why would you not want to help this guy out?
Exactly.
I was looking at something the other day and it was talking about how a big area of threat vectors that they think is going to come in 2023 and onward is attacking, the API work between your modern systems up front, and then when you have these back end legacy systems running in the back, that that channel in between them is extremely vulnerable because the legacy systems can't support the same security that your modern can, yet you're still flowing all this information to and fro.
Oh yes, certainly. It's like the middleman. The API is just the middleman. Like you got the old legacy system. You think it's secure because it's not, it's not internet facing, but you have this internet facing application that's directly communicating with it.
Right.
Definitely aware of that. PayPal. When I worked at PayPal, that's definitely some issues, especially when they acquire new companies. They may not change anything, but they need to
Mm,
work with the PayPal system, so they'll just spin up an API service and put it in the middle, and that way it all communicates. But I think they do a good job as they highly leverage HackerOne,
mm-hmm.
to, and they're paying people to like actually hack the system so that they're able to identify the holes, and then they
Right.
can plug them up.
As far as analyst fatigue goes, how do you combat that personally, or maybe for your team at your company right now to keep your guys sharp and on point when they're doing their job? I know it can get kind of boring and easy to fade off if you're just staring at a screen all day in the back dark room. But what do you use personally, and what do you kind of push to your team to kind of keep them sharp and on point as they're doing their day to day work?
Yeah, so analyst fatigue is definitely real. I've had incidents. That Blue Shield, we were 24/7, and everyone had to be in uh, California even. And so you have people working late nights. You have people and they're always small teams. Like
Mm-hmm.
we probably need 20 people, but budget says we can only have 10. So people have to, work longer than is always expected, even though we're on a shift. But one thing is people get bored. They look at the same thing every day and they're like, oh, this is just the same BS alert.
Right.
And so they ignore it, or they get calls from people, my password's changed and I didn't change my password. And we've all went through the same scenario again, where it's like they did change their password. They just can't remember it. Now they're telling us that their account's compromised, and we look in the logs and they literally changed their password yesterday. So, but with that, I think to combat that, and at Blue Shield, what ended up happening is this whole password thing. No, someone actually had called service desk at like 2 a.m. to request a password change for this client who would log into our Blue Shield system to process claims.
Mm-hmm.
And once they were able to change the password, and they were doing this like all the time, because then the client would call us, we'd reset their password, but then the next day the passwords change again, and no one went and checked the phone logs to see who was calling in, and we just saw like an admin service change the password. So for
Right.
us, it wasn't like a security threat. It wasn't like a other user had changed someone else's password, or we didn't see any.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have any like alerts from our other detection system saying, "Hey, someone breached the AD server and changed it." So it was like, well, our systems changed the password, and so it led into like a big deal of people stealing information and claims and processing them to new bank accounts. But I guess the biggest thing is automation. Is there's too many false positives in the systems, and there's no automation there to like run through to remove those false positives. So analysts come
Okay.
in and they get 10 alerts, and all the alerts are trash. Like no one
Right.
cares. But there's going to be one day where out of those 10, there's one that's actually a real thing. But the analyst is just
Right.
going to dismiss it, because why
Mm-hmm.
would you go through work 10 alerts when you see this every single day? So one thing that we do
Right.
at Human is false positives are like a huge deal. If we have a false positive, we have to deal with it immediately, because we have hundreds of customers. I don't know how many alerts, it's a lot. But our analysts don't look at these alerts. So we've built
Right.
a system that will go analyze the alert for them and then say, hey, was this accurate?
I mean, even from a business standpoint too, when you think about how to scale your business appropriately, if you don't have automation in there, you're never going to be able to have the manpower to scale proportionately to the growth that you want to have. You know, it's not feasible. So the more you can
Yeah.
automate anything in general is going to work exponentially better.
Yeah, and I think one thing is no one and no analyst wants to sit there and do it. So it's really counterintuitive to tell an analyst to go do all this stuff when they're probably not even doing a good job at it. They're like, yeah. And even in the event that something bad was there, they just skipped over
Right.
it and kept
Right.
going. So just because you have an automation platform, and just because you have the automation, if you're not actually doing anything with it and you're not actually trusting your analyst to provide the automation with valid feedback, then you don't have automation, in my opinion. There's a lot of companies that have it. They have a SOAR platform. Oh, we got the SOAR, and it's ingesting all this, and it's determining what alert is there. But if an analyst has to go in and manually analyze it, then it's not automation. You're just creating. It's just a new ticketing system that may have less tickets, but the
Right.
analyst isn't able to like verify the automation and then say, no, this is totally incorrect. This is how it needs to work. And I think as an
Mm-hmm.
organization, in security, for the all of security, every company should strive to get an automation in place where the analyst isn't just sitting there going through Splunk all day, but they're
Right.
actually thinking about how the logic behind that alert
Mm-hmm.
and how the automation platform analyzed it and verifying that the system analyzed it correctly and was able to detect the correct thing. And the analyst's job should be to provide feedback to that, not just take the ticket and then go work it, because it doesn't make, to me, that's not automation. So I just want to make that real clear. So,
Oh, that's
yeah.
awesome. I think that's a great definition of automation that you gave us. Because I think a lot of people, like you said, they might think they have automation, but if you're having humans do the work again or double check it or whatever, it's not really automated. You're just creating more work, or maybe you're creating simpler work or busy work, but it's not automated. And I think you're spot on with that, 100%. But
Yeah, I always have this thing. If I have to do it more than once, it can be automated. Like if I have to do it more than
right.
once, I don't want to do it. And I guess that's just my personality. Is I like new
Mhm.
things, new challenges. But if I have to do something over and over, it's just like I don't want to do this anymore. It's because it's not
Right.
challenging. I'm just a drone at this point, going through
Yep.
the steps,
Yep.
and I don't feel
No.
useful. I don't feel creative.
Yep.
So yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. We're in that automation grind right now at Dark Rhino too. We're really hustling to everything that can be automated is being automated. Trying to take the human element of repeating yourself out of it, like you said, and focusing more on big picture stuff. So that's good. That's awesome. What other things, are new in your life that you can fill us in on? I know, so in your LinkedIn you have analyst, realtor, and the last one's investor, right?
Yeah, so I have back in September, I kind of went through. I don't know. I looked at my life and was like, what could change? And
Right.
so I do want to have. I do want to be an angel investor. So that's my goal.
Yeah.
So step one is like becoming accredited,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's my thing. I also like real estate. Now I don't like residential real estate. I think it's way too emotional. I would never. I've seen people do it. I've seen people make money from it, but it seems like a very stressful time to sell someone's house. They want to sell it to the right people. They
Right.
don't really want to sell it, or people want to
Mhm.
buy, but they don't know what they want to buy. And there's all this emotion involved around this house. And so I'm trying to do more commercial, where it's just
Okay.
strictly business, make the commission, move on, and
Hmm.
um, get into apartments and buy like prime real estate where I can, 300, 300 doors. So I have 300 checks coming in. And
Right.
I have some friends we're looking at doing creating our own little startup. Um, Focused around security, but more so physical security. So there's lots of break-ins and things like that, and so I don't want to say that we're going to create like Big Brother. Um, and so we're trying to make this local so that
Okay.
local communities have jurisdiction. It's not like the big federal government has access to this, but it'd be like very local. Like we could even make it to the neighborhood level, so the neighborhood has
Mhm.
access to this. But
Right.
we want to be able to. I'm sure you heard about the college case where I think those three college students got stabbed and no one knows who did it, where. And so
Mm-mm.
we come up with an idea like it's so easy to just like read license plates and
Yeah.
to identify certain things. And so we want to create something that if the police are trying to find, but you could call them like CCTVs, but they're
Right.
smart. And so they're able to identify things without, necessarily spying on all of America.
Right.
And so when they're able to, we were looking at this new AI system that was able to like read human expression and tell you like feelings based off how they were walking or if they were smiling or their facial expressions. So we wanted to
Right.
create something that's similar so that if someone walks into a building, for example,
Hmm.
based off like that algorithm, we would be able to determine like, well, this person might be a potential threat
Right.
and alert whoever's there at the building or the neighborhood or whatever, hey, like there's like some weird stuff going on, essentially to prevent the crime from taking place before it does. I know there's going to be a lot
Right.
of people like, oh, my rights and stuff like that, and I totally understand because I don't want Big Brother. I mean, I think we've all read like 1984, and I don't want the federal government having access to it because I think they would totally abuse it. But if we could make it where it's just at the local level, or if Walmart just wants it, right? If we could detect like someone's going to come in here, there was like a thing where someone held a Walmart employee hostage. If we were able to
Right.
determine from the parking lot that this person is angry, out of their mind, going to come in here and
Hmm.
do something, maybe somebody could have like did something to prevent that from happening. And so that's kind of our goal. So the real estate stuff is to just get funding. Plus, it helps with
Okay.
my life goals. Um, to because I came from my mom, a single mom, and my mom's on like Section 8 and stuff, and no one in my family has ever owned anything or had any type of wealth. So for me, it's
Hmm.
important to create that wealth for the next generation of
Right.
people. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, that's super cool. Um, can you tell us about the HBO documentary at all that's going down?
Yeah. So I don't think it's going to be, it's kind of secret, but it's not really. But yeah, so
Mhm.
HBO, they do tons of documentaries about everything. And so one of the concerns was uh, data privacy, consumer data and privacy, and how it's being collected and how it's being used, how it could be used, who has access to buy it, where you buy this stuff. And I think it's, Apple's made a good case of like, there's a privacy issue. And all the other companies
Mm-hmm.
are like, there's no privacy issue. And so we're really just trying to determine how much of your data is being bought and sold on the
Right.
market, and what you could do with it. So we're just going to get some people together, and this is all volunteers, so no one's paid to do this. And
Right.
we're just going to take their data, and then we're going to go buy it, and then we're going to analyze it. And what we hope to do is create profiles. This could change because we're still in the planning phases and stuff like that, but we're going to build these profiles out and hopefully have these individuals, these volunteers that come in and say, could you identify yourself on this board? And it's all anonymized, so it's not like they're going to
Mm-hmm.
see their name, but they could see maybe their likes, their interests, something they've talked about recently or whatever, and say, yeah, that
Right.
probably looks like me. And so that's
Yeah.
our intent, and what we hope happens is they're able to identify. So even though this data is anonymized, it's not really. It
Right.
still goes. It can still be tied back to a person, and people could identify that. Um, and so we're just trying to not scare people, but just bring awareness of, be careful what data or apps you download. Make sure you're reading what they're actually collecting, because a lot of times people don't. Same thing with
Mhm.
license agreement. You're installing a software and you just click next. No one reads those things, but it's
Right.
important to kind of highlight it. Or if Apple and Microsoft could, before something installs, saying, hey, this is literally what they're going to collect from you. Do you want to
Right.
allow this? And so we're just bringing awareness. And maybe maybe we don't find anything, and all of this data is real secure, and it's not, and it's so anonymized that it's impossible for us to identify individual people. But we're
Yeah.
going to let the people decide if that's the case, because we're just going to take their
Mhm.
data and create profiles and let
Yeah.
them decide if they can. Oh yeah, that's me for sure.
What's your hunch? What do you think is going to happen?
Um, so I think it's going to be. I think we're going to get. So we're going to have them download multiple apps.
Mm-hmm.
Some that's going to be kind of like iffy. Like, these are weird apps. Like, we want to see how much they're
Right.
collecting. But then we're also going to have them, like Facebook, for example. So my thing is, I think we're going to be able to create those profiles.
Yeah.
It might not be as easy as we're hoping it's going to be, but I'm sure that we're able to identify people and what their at least their interests are, because that's the market, is to sell ads to people.
Right.
But
Yep.
hopefully we could even find like location, where they
Mm-hmm.
actually live or where they spend a lot of their time. If you think about it, like, let's say they're always looking at hiking gear or whatever, we could maybe say that, oh, they live in the Rockies and that's just a hobby that people do. Or if they're like jet skis and boats and things like that, maybe we can infer that they live near the beach or the water. And
Right.
so we don't know yet, because we don't know what data we're going to be able to get back. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking it's going to be pretty easy to create these profiles, and people
Yeah.
come in and go like, whoa, like, all this about me, and I don't even know that about me. That's
Right.
what we're hoping for anyways.
Yeah. I have a feeling you're probably right on that. I think you're going to be able to easily create these profiles. Maybe the work might be a little bit more, like you said, but I think the data will for sure be there to piece together who someone is based on what they put out there online.
Yeah, and another thing that we're going to do too is we're going to see if we can determine, because once the data is sold, like let's say
Mm-hmm.
Facebook sells your data to the marketplace for ads, someone else could buy that, but then what do they do with it? And so we're going to
Right.
see if we can see if we can identify any chain of
Mm-hmm.
abuse where data is getting bought and sold to nefarious actors, where they may
Mm.
target you for malicious ads. So you
Right.
think you're downloading a really cool app, and maybe it is. Maybe it's like I'm sure that we've seen like on Instagram or whatever, where it says download this new game,
Yep.
and the game looks cool. You download it. It's nothing like the game at all, or the ad that you saw, and it's just a bunch of baloney. But they're just hoping that you download it, not so you buy or play the game. They're just wanting to collect information off your device so they can sell it back or use it for whatever. Um,
Right.
and so I think what we're seeing is they're able to target people, but how are they targeting people? Well, they have to go buy some data so that they can actually put it on the marketplace and hope that that ad lands on that person's page that's interested in that. There was some other stuff too where people created fake websites for hunting
Mm-hmm.
gear. And people are like, oh, that
Right.
looks like really good hunting gear. And it's like name brands, like cheap. People click on it and then they put their credit card information in. They never get the product. or if they do, it's not actually what they bought. It's like some knockoff version, and they don't care because they're just there to get your credit card information and your PII, your address, and move on. And that's so
Yeah.
we're seeing that. We're hoping that maybe we could even go a step further and see if we can identify chains, or where these publishers are allowing anyone to buy this information instead of like reputable businesses that have policies in place and to follow the
Mhm.
rules and regulations
I
that
gotcha.
the government set out.
So when can we kind of expect this documentary to be out?
Well, it should be out 2023, probably near the end. I'd have to get more. I know that we're trying to start filming in January through March. Then there's
Mm-hmm.
post production. There could be,
Right.
and it's not just going to be us. So there's going to be another part to this documentary too. Um, and so I'm thinking by the end of the year, latest would be 2024. These things just
All
take
right.
time. People got to edit.
Right.
We're not doing a ton of editing because we want it to be as raw as possible, so it doesn't look
Mm-hmm.
like a movie. And it's like, no, this is like a real documentary. This is like literally what
Right.
happened. Um,
Yep.
but there's, you got to create the timeline so that even though
Mhm.
we record and do all this stuff, that it tells a story that we're trying to tell through this. And there's going
Yeah.
to be some other people, and the director's lives in the UK, so it's like a ton of travel for him to keep come back and forth,
Right.
because they have other stuff that they're working on in addition to ours. So I can't say that it'll be out September of 2023, but
Right.
I we're hoping that it gets done this year.
I
And
gotcha.
worst cases, it'd be 2024, beginning of 2024, it'd be done.
Okay. Very cool. I think that's honestly, I think that's going to be an interesting topic that a lot of people would definitely check out. I, off the top of my head, I really can't say that there are that many documentaries on cyber in general, let alone cybersecurity and privacy. What happens to your data? So I think you guys are kind of paving the way there with maybe a new interest and shedding some light on something that I really think nobody knows anything about. I mean, I'm even one of those people who the licensing agreement comes up or the terms and conditions, and I just click yes.
Yeah, because if you
I,
don't, I mean, you can't install it. So you're like, well,
yeah,
so no one reads it.
right. Do I want this thing or not? Okay, yeah, I want it. Well, what's the point then? They're going to take what they want regardless, whether I know about it or not.
That is super
But I
true.
think we, cyber as a whole, the community definitely needs to get better at that sort of thing and maybe being a little more transparent or upfront about, like you said, what we are taking and what we're going to do with it.
Yep, most definitely. I know the industry is trying to do some stuff. Like I'm sure you heard of like Apple's Replay,
Mm-hmm.
Relay. Google's going to be doing the same thing. Google's also so in my space. One of the ways you can really identify a user is through their user agent and IP address,
Okay.
um, and their device. So even though two people running Chrome, one's running a MacBook, runs on Windows, and they have the same IP, but we can still target that one device. So Google's actually removing the user agent. I think it's next year or the end of
Mm-hmm.
this year. They're removing the user agent and they're going to go with a user hint. So they'll tell you it's Chrome, but they won't tell you what version of Chrome it's on or any other additional information.
Okay.
So, which for us is going to be a little bit of a headache since we rely on the user agent for some
Right.
detections. But I think it's good overall because it it's good and bad because bots have a user agent. We we rely on
Mm-hmm.
that, or if we see a user agent that's too new or too old, or it's just like the weight's not evenly distributed. So we're like, yeah, this is just like a really odd user agent that's just creating
Mm-hmm.
tons of traffic for no reason, and all the other user agents are pretty uniformed. So now when they get rid of that, it's just going to be a user hint. So we'll just see Chrome. And it's like, well, it's Chrome, but we don't know. We don't have any more granular information or detail. So it's
All right.
bad for us, but I think it's good overall because if you're concerned with privacy, the ad brokers and people, the publishers and sellers, aren't able to determine what browser you're actually. Like they know what browser you're using, so they know how to display the information because they use different engines, like Safari and Chrome are different engines, but they
Right.
won't know which version you're on, so they can't
Okay.
use it to necessarily track you. because it's no longer
Gotcha.
really everyone's going to be on Safari, Chrome, or Firefox, or some other little version. But for
Hmm.
the most part, it's going to be Safari and Chrome, and that doesn't tell you anything. So you can no longer use it to track people, which I think is a great
Mm.
thing for the privacy community. For security, we always want as much information as we can. So what we'll
Right.
probably end up doing is creating our own version of a user agent string based off the data that our sensor is able to collect on the page. So
Gotcha.
that's kind of going to probably be our workaround.
Okay.
But
That
just
makes
for the
sense.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know. It's not been like a huge announcement that user agent's going away, but it is.
Right.
So,
All right. Well, anything else you want to share? Important information our listeners should know. Anything about you as we kind of wrap it up here?
um, yeah, I would say for our listeners, I never, I guess the big takeaway and why I'm still like human and I find it pretty fascinating is because it's like an overlooked from most of security. It's like, oh, it's
Hmm.
bots. And even at other organizations I worked, it's the concerns of DDoS, but these bots aren't trying to take down the server. They're just trying to abuse your users. So if you're really looking at that information and you're looking to have a better way to protect them, even post login, or looking for, let's say someone else built your website for you, we're also able to
Hmm.
determine if there's any malicious scripts running, what the callbacks are. We have tons and tons of technology, and I come from like a web application developer. So
Right.
I developed applications, but I never really thought about the security until I was at Perimeter X. And so for anyone that's like looking, I think it's super important. Not that you have to go with us, but just look, do something about it because it's a big issue. And even though you might not
Right.
think it is, it's there. Like every single customer that we get, there's always an issue. Like even the ones that say,
Hmm.
"Oh, we don't have a bot problem," we always find one. And so I think it's just super important for the community if you're having any type of internet facing application where people can log in, check out, or whatever, you'd be really surprised at what information uh, that you're not aware of because your CDNs and stuff like that, they have bot protection. You click bot protection, but it's really inaccurate. It's not collecting enough. It's not collecting a really enough information to make that decision. Um,
Right.
and so just take a look at some of the other products. Obviously, I think Human's the best. I worked at both companies, so tons of great people over here. Yeah, and I really hope everyone has like a really good, cool New Year's goal that they get and they
Yep.
accomplish. And that 2023 is like the best year yet.
Yeah. Absolutely. What are any goals for you that you want to share with us?
Yeah, so my goal for the year is to meet two people a week. Two people a week,
Okay.
and like befriend those two people, get their contact information. So I'm shooting for 100 people, 100 new friends. I know this is
Hmm.
crazy. Everyone's like, oh, it's crazy. But it's only two. If you break it down, it's like two people a week. So I can easily go out and find two people uh, to make those connections.
Very cool.
And this is a personal goal of mine.
So if our listeners want to get in touch with you, is LinkedIn the best place to do so, or Twitter, or where should
I'm
they
on
go?
Twitter. I don't have a lot. I don't have a lot going on Twitter. Maybe one day. I feel like
Hmm.
it's for celebrities, but LinkedIn or Instagram.
Okay,
Yep.
there we go, and we'll make sure to throw those links in the description when we air this baby. And everyone, if you want to get in touch with Dallas, there it is, LinkedIn or Instagram. All right, awesome. Well, it was good talking to you, and hopefully, I'm sure we'll have you back on again sometime in the near future. And let us know when the documentary comes out if we don't see anything about it. That I think that's actually going to be something really interesting and worth viewing.
Yep. I'll definitely keep you in the loop of the progress we're making on that.
Awesome,
I think it's gonna be
awesome.
exciting. I think everyone should watch it too. And the director,
Yeah.
he's such a cool guy. The whole team, they're just really amped up, and they've made some really good stuff. So if you go to it's Almost Pictures. So
Okay.
they did like the documentary on the January 6th thing. That's
Okay.
like their newest one that they've done. So, but there's tons. So if you just go to it's Almost Pictures, you'll see it. It'll come up as HBO, but that's like the
Okay.
studio name or whatever that's doing it.
Very
Um,
cool.
Look at some similar stuff that they've done in the past, and if you like any of that stuff, not that you have to agree with what that is, but if you like the
Right.
content or how they're telling the story, then I think you'll like what we're working on currently with the consumer data privacy.
Awesome. Well, we'll throw that link in the description as well for people to be able to check out, and look forward to talking with you again.
Yeah, same here, Rory.
All right, awesome. Have a good new year, and best in 2023.
All right, you too.
All right, see ya.